Trigger warning: psychological manipulation, gaslighting, mental health challenges, delusions, medication tampering, family conflict, threats of involuntary commitment. SIL moves in with OP and his wife and purposefully messes with him to make him go crazy due to his schizoaffective disorder. I think my sister-in-law is messing with me, but I'm not too sure. Okay, I know this will sound weird, but stay with me here. A few years ago, I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a depressive type. It kind of came later in life, so when the symptoms hit, I was working full-time and had a decent job. After it started getting worse, I ended up losing my job, and now I'm in the process of going for disability. It's not where I wanted to go in life, but I'm trying my best. It's been hard, trying to find the right medication is a B, but I've found ones that are working wonders, and my hallucinations have been down by a lot. Things were starting to look up. So my wife has been really supportive, and is basically supporting me financially. It's one of the hardest things about going through this, to be honest, having to live like a deadbeat husband and having my wife work extra hard for the both of us. Her family has been less than thrilled, and I can't really blame them. I'm still cordial with them, but it's tense. A few months ago, Kathy's sister Sue left her husband and came to live with us along with her baby. I can't say I'm happy with new people in the house, but I understood and tried to be accommodating with her, and for a while, things were good between Sue and me. She's always been a little nervous around me ever since my diagnosis. When it first came out, she immediately sent a text to my wife saying she didn't trust me around her kid for babysitting anymore, but she seemed to lighten up and everything seemed good. It started last month where, every time I walked past Sue when we were alone, I'd hear her whisper stuff I couldn't make out. I'd ask her if she said anything, and she'd always said no, so I assumed I was mishearing stuff or maybe it was my audio hallucinations. But it started to happen more often, like every damn time I was near her. Sometimes we'd be watching a show and I'd hear whispering coming from her, but I never could get a good look in her mouth to see if it was her or not. She'd either be turned away from me, behind me, or in front of me. The whispers started getting louder, and I could actually make out what they were saying. Stuff like unalive them all or assa that be, which really started to worry me. My hallucinations have always been kind of rough, but they always seemed focused on me, like I hate you or you're a failure. Never the other stuff. So I was worried they were getting worse on me. Then I started hearing voices from other rooms. It sounded like someone was talking from other rooms, and anytime I'd ask Sue if she heard anything, she'd claim not to. The weird thing is, my audio hallucinations are different from what I was hearing. My hallucinations have always sounded female, whereas the voices from the other room have been male. My voices also sound like they are whispering right next to my ear, while these ones sounded like they were taking place somewhere else. The weirdest part was that what the voices said sounded a lot like a meme from 4chan. They like to message people from the schizophrenia subreddit and tell them that they are hiding in their walls, and that's exactly what I was hearing in the other room. I started searching for the source of the voices around the house, but Sue got scared and started telling my wife I was going crazy again. I know it looked bad, but my hallucinations sound and say different things, so I was making sure it wasn't something else. Today, things got worse. My medication ended up being missing. I kept it in the kitchen at night, but the bottle was gone this morning. When I asked Sue if she saw my medication, she got really scared and hid in her room with the baby. Her mom and dad came over, and they weren't necessarily hostile toward me, but they blocked my way and took Sue to their house for the day. They called up my wife and told them I had been harassing her and going crazy at Sue, and they feared for Sue and her baby with the schizo around. I really think Sue is messing with me. I've had trouble taking my medications in the past when my symptoms were at their worst, but I really liked this medication I was on, and I'm nervous about waiting a few days for more of it. The problem is, I really could be hallucinating everything. Yeah, it's different from the other hallucinations I had in the past, but hallucinations can change with time, and if I were to become delusional again, I wouldn't really know it either. I really don't want to scare Sue, but it just doesn't seem right. None of this stuff happens when my wife gets back home from work, only when it's just me and Sue at home. I didn't think she'd be capable of doing stuff like this, but everything about this just feels wrong. I'm not sure how my wife is feeling about this. I haven't had a chance to talk to her in depth about it, and what little we did get to talk about, I couldn't really tell how she was feeling about everything. She's been my biggest cheerleader and supporter through all of this, but her family is saying my symptoms are targeting her sister and nephew now, so I'm not too sure what's going through her mind. I just don't know what to do. Ever since this started happening, my symptoms have made a comeback, so I have heard my usual hallucinations from the stress of everything. I don't want to be a monster, and I was thinking of maybe getting myself into the psych ward, but I just have this feeling that this is just Sue effing with me. My delusions and hallucinations have always been spirit-related, not targeting anyone specifically. And if it's Sue who is doing this, why in the world would she be messing with me like this if she truly believed I was dangerous? What should I do? Relevant comments from the OP. In response to a comment stating Sue needs to leave, it'd be hard to kick her out. Her parents live in one bedroom, so they don't have room for her, and she has no money at the moment. Since Sue's been gone, I haven't had any hallucinations, but it's too soon to tell. In response to a comment where the OP is asked if he keeps track of his hallucinations, I keep track of new audio hallucinations. With this new medication, they went to almost 0 voices before the stuff with Sue happened. Since she left, they are at 0, but it hasn't been that long, so I'm not too sure. OP hasn't thought of recording the voices, and he likes the idea of setting cameras up, though it might make him crazier. Some comments from fellow Redditors. Call your psychiatrist, ask for emergency medications, and ask for an appointment as soon as possible. Use your phone to record any sounds you hear. I'm really sorry. I know this is hard. I have a family member who has struggled with this for 40 years. Reach out to your doctor. Sit down with your wife and lay all of this out. Don't accuse Sue of anything, but tell her you are genuinely concerned that this only happens when your wife isn't home. Tell her that you would feel better asking Sue to stay somewhere else for the time being. From there, keep an eye on what you're feeling. If, after Sue is gone, things get better, then you know something is up. If it doesn't get better, then you know it wasn't her. Either way, have your wife suggest to Sue that she stay away for a few days somewhere else. Make sure she doesn't say it's because of your mental health, because it sounds like Sue is already scared enough as it is. Another good idea would be to pull out your phone when you hear voices. Record it on your phone and send the video to your wife or a friend. Ask them if they hear anything in the video that's out of the ordinary. Another person can confirm or deny what you're hearing. For now, stay calm and avoid confronting Sue directly. It sounds like she's nervous already, and any more confrontation could cause her to call her parents again as in sauce, painting you in a negative light. Easy solution: Sue moves out. Hallucinations stop. Either she was effing with you or the stress was triggering an attack. Hallucinations continue. Talk to a doctor. Edit because this got more attention than I thought. BTW, I don't think you're crazy. I think Sue is effing with you, but instead of accusing her, it's going to be better to beat her at her own game and use it as an excuse for her to move out, not you. Also, I'd like to point out that sad appearing late in life is fairly common and not unusual in the least, as schizophrenia is one of the more unpredictable mental illnesses. Reading up on autism helped me understand myself. Reading about SAD might help you too. Update. Hey guys, sorry for the long wait for an update. A few things have happened, and I was preoccupied. First things first, I was able to get my medication in about 2 days, so I wasn't without my antipsychotics for too long, thankfully. When my wife got home, we had a talk about what's been happening. I talked to her about Sue when I was alone with her and even let her read over my previous post. My wife is a rock star, and she took everything I said well. We acknowledged the fact that it could still be hallucinations because we didn't have proof, but my wife had her suspicions about Sue and told me that it's not outside the realm of something Sue would do. My wife told me Sue had talked to her earlier in the week and told her I had not been taking my pills. My wife was confused by this because I tend to take the pills in front of her. I had a hard time taking pills when I was first diagnosed and am still having delusions. She had assured Sue that I had been taking my pills and thought it was just Sue being extra paranoid. We went and searched for the pills one last time, but they were gone. We decided not to have Sue back over anymore. My wife didn't like the idea of her sister and nephew being homeless, but she took to heart what was said on the post and decided it was for the best for everyone involved. I had been making good progress for a while, and she didn't want it to go away with Sue around. Of course, when she called up her family to tell them, they were pissed. Her parents screamed at her for choosing her husband over family, and later her sister called her up, crying about how they were going to be homeless soon because the parents weren't going to let her stay there for too much longer. It hurt seeing my wife caught up in this, and I'm not going to lie, I almost relented about Sue staying with us, but my wife assured me that this was the right decision. So everything was quiet for a few days. I didn't have any of the new audio hallucinations with Sue around. Let me tell you, it was a relief. I can't say I was totally fine. Some of my old delusions were making a comeback. Mostly spirits and hauntings, but I felt more relaxed at home and was feeling good with her gone. I took the time to call up my doctor, and we had an emergency appointment, which made me feel better moving forward. So this happened about 3 days ago. My wife's family waited for my wife to go off to work and came over to our place. The first thing I noticed was that they actually brought a moving van. I don't know if their plan was to move me out or move more of Sue's junk in, but there they were, moving vans right in my front yard. I texted my wife to let her know what was going on, then answered the door. I did not let them in. So basically, the dad comes up to me all aggressively and tells me that, As a family, they decided I was too unstable to live at home anymore and to pack my SHT up. We're having you committed. I told them straight up that SHT wasn't happening, and I wasn't going to go anywhere with them. The mom went on a rant about how I was so unstable, and that they weren't going to leave their nephew with someone so dangerous. I told them that Sue wasn't staying here, so there's nothing to worry about. The mom tried to switch it up and to sweet-talk me then, saying that with my mental health on the decline, they were just so worried about me and were going to take me to the hospital for my own good, and even said afterwards that I could live with my family until the nephew gets a little older. Not even after I get better, until the nephew gets older. I told them, again, this is my house. I was not going anywhere. Sue was never staying over again, and they needed to leave my house before I called the police. They laughed, which just pissed me the hell off. And yes, honestly, I should have called the cops, but between having schizoaffective disorder and me being a black man in an argument against an old white couple, I didn't like the odds of me ending up being the one getting arrested. I did text my wife that her family was trying to have me go to inpatient care, which made her leave work right away. So to shorten this up, we had a screaming match, and it basically boiled down to this: if I didn't agree to move out for the safety of Sue and her kid, they would call up my landlord and let them know about my serious condition and what type of dangerous person was living at the house. They also implied that they were ready to have me involuntarily commit all the other crazies if I fought them on this anymore, and that it was better to go with them now so that I would be taken into one of the good places. Backstory here. When I got diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, my brother let me move into the house that I currently live in. We pay rent, but he rents at a good rate because he wanted to make sure I had a good place to stay. We've told her parents this before, multiple times, but I guess they forgot this one little detail. So I told them straight up, my brother is my landlord. If I go, Sue still wouldn't live here. Ever. If I go to inpatient, she isn't going to live here. This situation will never end with her living at this house. That shut them up, dead silent. They looked at me like I had just unalived their dog. They tried to say a few more things, but about that point, it just kind of fizzled out anticlimactically. Sue and her parents left afterwards. My wife came home not too long after her family left, and she was disappointed. My wife is a 5'4" tiny woman. But boy was she mad as hell about what happened, especially going behind her back to do this. More calls, more fighting with her family. She stood by me and told them to stay the hell away from me, and I greatly appreciated that. I just know it's killing her on the inside to not be able to see her nephew anymore. Before this happened, her family was supportive of her and very close. So it just blows my mind that the situation turned into this. She's going to have no contact with them for now. So that's where I'm at right now. Not doing the best mental-wise, to be honest. Might end up in inpatient care anyway the way things are going. I keep getting paranoid that they are going to take me away somehow, but I'm trying to remain calm about everything. Like I said, I had none of those new hallucinations when Sue was around. But with the stress of everything, I feel like I'm constantly surrounded and I'm going to be taken at any moment. I've talked to my doctor again, and we have a plan in place, but I really don't want to end up inpatient if I can avoid it. It makes it worse knowing my wife will be left alone without support, which makes me the most pissed off about this entire situation. Thanks for all the advice, Reddit. It really helped me out in the end. TLDR. Sue and her parents tried to get me to leave the house to have me go to inpatient care. I have no contact with them. Might still go to inpatient care. Some comments from fellow Redditors. It's almost funny how they're crying to your wife about not letting her sister stay, but they won't even let her stay with them. It's also funny to insinuate that you aren't family to your wife. If they come again, don't answer the door, especially if your wife isn't there. I can easily imagine them making up lies about you, so protect yourself by avoiding them. I'm sorry you have to deal with such terrible people, but I'm so glad your wife is standing by you. Best of luck in the future. Just focus on getting better and loving your wife. I'm so sorry this happened to you. You handled it great, and I am glad you have your wife's and psychiatrist's support. I'm just totally flabbergasted that someone would actually try to trip a schizophrenic person into a psychosis to get them home. I mean, this is what she tried, right? The idea was to get you admitted so your sister could have your house. Otherwise, the in-laws wouldn't have shut up once you told them. Sue was never, under no circumstances, going to be able to rent this house. I just can't wrap my head around the audacity, the entitlement, and that effing low blow. You did great. OP, keep up the good work. You're going to be fine. I commented last time that Sue was messing with you to get you out of the house so she could move in permanently. She is a horrible person to prey on your mental health for her own benefit. The audacity of your in-laws, though, is unbelievable to try and throw you out of your home so their daughter, whom they won't let live with them, can move in. I'm so glad your wife is the support you need. I wish you well in the future. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoy listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.